So I just came back from seeing the Yokai Watch movie in theaters, and wow, I really want to talk about it. Now, I've always been a big fan of kids' movies. I've grown up watching Pixar, all that stuff, and Disney, but this was seriously hilarious. The humor of Yokai Watch is very, Eastern, if that makes any sense. Like, it's a very specific type of humor that they go for. A lot of slapstick, a lot of puns, and I just eat that stuff up, man. So, straight off the bat, if you even remotely enjoy the Yokai Watch TV series, you're definitely gonna love the movie. It's just everything in the movie, but a little bit fancier, if that makes any sense. With a longer runtime and higher production quality, they can definitely, dish out better jokes quicker, and they definitely did that in the movie. But yeah, let's actually talk about the plot of the film. More or less, it directly follows the plot of Yokai Watch 2, being a time travel tale where Nate has to go back in the past and stop the evil that will soon come to the future. Which isn't bad, however, there are a couple of slight differences that if you have played through Yokai Watch 2, you can be like, wait, what happened here? How did this happen? But honestly, if they crammed everything that was into the 3DS game into a movie, it would probably be twice as long. Not that that's a bad thing, I just think if you're expecting it to be a one-to-one recreation, it's not that. And honestly, it's better for that reason. But the movie begins with Nate losing the Yokai Watch, just like he did in Yokai Watch 2. However, something a little bit different is straight off the bat, Meganyan appears and starts enlarging literally everything. And I think it could have benefited from maybe doing a little bit of an introduction to Nate's, adventures prior to this, because he has befriended a lot of different yokai, so we can assume this is after Season 1. So if you're coming in with, zero knowledge of the Yokai Watch franchise, you're probably going to be a little bit confused, which I think they could have done a little bit better at that, but it's not the end of the world. But yeah, so Meganyan comes in, he's like, oh, you're both basher, and then zaps Nate, and then he decides, you know what, I suddenly want to go to my grandma's house, and so he does, and then he happens to run into his grandma, who talks about his grandpa and how cool he was, just like in the game. And luck would have it, he eventually discovers the place that Meganyan is being stored, which is the giant shed. Long story short, we get Hovernyan back, and then they go back in time and meet Nate's grandpa, Nathaniel. Now, one thing I really did enjoy that I think the movie, in fact, does better than the video game is Nathaniel's stubbornness and really cold shoulder towards Nate is a lot more realistic given that he's had more screen time. The whole conflict with him not being able to protect his friend and stuff, it's a lot better explained because flashbacks are just honestly a lot easier to understand in film form than in a video game. So in that regard, the plot of Yokai Watch the movie is a little bit stronger than Yokai Watch 2. And another thing I really want to compliment the movie on is the pacing. All of this introduction and all of this character development happens in an instant. I think in the first 15 minutes of the movie, I wasn't keeping track, but it went lightning fast, which is sometimes hard to pull off, but they did a good job at that. And one thing you're also going to pick up on almost instantly, when Hovernyan fights the wicked yokai actually do battle in this movie, which isn't a thing that commonly happens in the TV show. The TV show is very non-violent. A lot of conflicts in the Yokai Watch series are just settled through peaceful negotiation or just some other random stuff. There are a few outliers, like when Robanyan had to battle Cheek Squeak, and I think Jabanyan battled Rough Raff, but outside of that, there's never been actual, fighting choreography. Okay, there's no choreography because it's all drawn, but you know what I mean. So that was really cool to see. The few fight scenes that are in the Yokai Watch movie are actually really great. I was getting a little pumped up. I know, I'm kind of a dork, but it was really cool to see some of your favorite yokai actually attack the wicked yokai because, well, that doesn't really happen all the time in the TV show. Now, something I touched on briefly is the jokes in the jokes in the show pale into comparison to some of the movies. My theater wasn't even that full because it was a fandom event, which is a little tiny thing, but man, people are cracking up, and there's just some legitimately funny jokes and gags that they pull in this movie. You don't even have to watch Yokai Watch to get some of these jokes, and those are really some of the best ones. There's some fart humor in there, sure, and there's some just downright terrible puns. My favorite is when Whisper goes, I'm a yokai butler, not a yokai. He says something about his yokai butt, and this, I love that, man. It's stinking hilarious. Also, the main antagonist, kind of farts out a yokai. That's kind of nasty, but it's still pretty funny. Another thing I really want to compliment the team on is just the voice quality and the dubbing was really nice. Now, I watch a lot of animation, and when it comes here to America, sometimes there is a little mixing up and, the lips are flapping but no one's talking. Not this time. They took it very seriously. Now, I do believe some jokes had to be rewritten just to compensate for this. Like, there's this one scene, I'm not going to spoil too much in case you haven't seen it, and there still will be a probably home release eventually later down the line, so I don't want to talk about that, but there is this one joke which only makes sense if you're, like, not in Asia. You know when anime characters use their ultra attack and the letters pop up on the screen? Whisper and Jibanyan directly quote this, and like, I want the letters too! It's sick and funny, man, but if you're not a fan of sort of meta humor, if you catch my drift, you might be turned off by that, which could be seen as a negative, but as a longtime fan of animation, I think that was really funny of them to do. While we're on the topic of dubbing, though, there was one major outlier, and this character doesn't talk very often in the film. There was like a very short animation at the end of it, which we'll talk at the end of this review, by the way, but Koma-san's voice is just so radically different. I don't know what's going on there. Was his voice actress not able to actually be in the film? Is Koma-san just gonna sound like that forever? I don't really know, but Koma-san usually just sounds very, not really masculine, just kind of like, you couldn't confuse him for a girl, but now he sounds very feminine. I'm not too sure what was up with that, but yeah, like I said, doesn't really talk for a whole lot of the movie, makes a very brief appearance in the beginning and sort of near the end, but that kind of threw me off, I guess, but oh well, what can you do? One thing I also really got to bring up is about the primary antagonist and their respective backstory, which I was for sure that they were going to censor or abbreviate or just make, no, they kept it the exact same, and that is very admirable on Level 5's part, because this specific character's backstory is extremely dark, and I was for sure that they were going to change it, and they didn't, to my surprise, and I was like, wow, that's actually crazy. I know a lot of different companies were like, no, we can't show that to kids, but they did, and I'm just like, wow, that's really admirable, not gonna lie. It definitely does make the characters' rage and anger and, desire to rule the world actually make sense, because they had such a cruddy life, and now that they've been reborn as a yokai, they would obviously want revenge. Now, it seems like I'm just kind of kissing the movie's butt, but no, I legitimately did, enjoy it. And I'm not the type of guy that really likes movies either, which is why you don't really see a lot of reviews of animation or movies at all on this channel, but there was very little dead air, if you know what I mean. Like, something was always happening, something was always moving forward, but at the same time, the movie never felt like it was rushing or just trying to, get to the end of the movie. It had its fast parts and its slow parts, let you take in the environment of Harrisville and the locations of the yokai world. My really only major criticism is that if you've played through the main campaign of Yokai Watch 2, Fleshy Souls or Bony Spears, there isn't really too much here for you. Sure, there are some jokes that aren't in the game and some different characters show up that you didn't really see interact with each other, but outside of that, it does kind of feel like just a retelling of the 3DS game, but a little bit abridged. Not a bad thing by any means, but if you didn't enjoy the story of Yokai Watch 2, you're probably not going to enjoy the story of the movie, just because they're almost the same exact thing. But outside of that, though, it was a great time. I enjoyed it. I really, really liked also how they included the Hovernyan medal that you received when you get your tickets and go into the theater, into the movie. I eat stuff like that up. It's a very memorable piece of memorabilia. Because how they interject this tiny little plastic into the story and make it meaningful, it makes you, kind of smile a little bit. And you look at it yeah, I remember that movie. It was pretty great. But yeah, the story's really good. It has a really nice ending to it as well. I really appreciated that they try and give you a little moral, not necessarily a moral, but have a nice ending. It's always something that some children's films tend to forget to do sometimes, but yeah, it was a great movie. I honestly do hope that it comes out on Blu-ray or DVD or download or Netflix or something, because honestly, it was great. It was just nice to see yokai on the big screen, and I'm really excited to see if we get the next movie. And yeah, not sure if you guys dug this or not. I just really had a lot to say about this specific film, because I know a lot of you are really interested in Yokai Watch, and sadly, not every theater had it available, but maybe a home release will be coming soon. I have no idea if it will or will not, but from what I can gather, it was kind of a big hit, and critics seem to like it too. I know I liked it, and I'm a really huge critic. But let's talk about the last thing, which honestly kind of stole a lot of the show for me, was at least it gave me the best lasting impression, was the Poofessor animated short that they showed at the ending. Now, I think showing it at the end was kind of silly. They probably should have done it at the beginning because, like I said before, they probably should have had a little example of Jibanyan Whisper and Nate's relationship and what they do with the Yokai Watch before we actually got to the movie. But for some reason they showed it at the end. That was fine. But the legendary Poofessor shows up, and if you like poop humor, it's sticking great. That's all I'm gonna say about it. But yeah, that was fantastic. They picked they just picked such a good character and such a good, like, plot and concept to put at the end of a movie. Like, it was stinking amazing. I don't want to spoil too much, but God, I love this character so much, and I can't wait to befriend him. So I can tell everyone all these needless facts and appear smarter than I really am. Yeah, it's kind of odd, but yeah. Thank you all so much for watching this movie review. I know it was literally all over the place. I didn't make a script at all. I just came back and kind of had a little bit of adrenaline. Just want to talk about this really awesome movie. But yeah, hope you guys got to see it. If you did, let me know how you liked it, if you liked it, or what was your favorite part of the movie. And yeah, see you guys in the next Yokai Watch video. Bye.